Hello lovely people, it's Nicole and today I am back home. School year is over. All my pretty shelves are back at school, but we're home and this is what we're working with. Moving on. Today I want to talk about the Marvel-A-Thon, which is a very exciting month-long readathon. Like, whew! Month-long readathon. It's gonna be a lot, but it's taking place in June. This was created by Jameson at Jamieshelves, and I am so excited. Basically, the idea is that the readathon is split into the 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and each movie gets its own prompt for a book to read, and you have to finish all the books within a phase before you can move on to the next phase, but within a phase you can read the books in whatever order you want. So there are 18 challenges, I think. So we're just gonna jump right in because that is a lot of books. So starting off in phase 1, the first movie is Iron Man, and since Iron Man is the first movie in the MCU, read the first book in a series, and for that I have Graceling by Kristen Cashore. This is something that's been on my TBR for forever. Maybe a little bit longer than I would normally go for a readathon, but I just need to read it. It's been so long, and like, I've heard amazing things about it. I just need to finally get around to actually reading it. Next is Hulk. Bruce Banner is famous for his green alter ego. Read a book with green on the cover, and for this I have Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is another one that everyone I know loves this book. And I got it. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I figure this gives me the perfect excuse to because the cover is definitely very green. Next is Iron Man 2, which is one of Marvel's most unpopular movies. Read a book that's unpopular, and for that I have All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. This one, a lot of people have criticized a lot for cultural appropriation issues. I got it before I had heard about any of those things, and I do like Maggie Stiefvater's other writing, so I figure it's unpopular. I will read it for the unpopular book, sort of going in, and whenever I talk about it on here, I also want to talk about it with the grain of salt of like, a lot of people have raised issues with the cultural aspects of this book. Next is Thor. The Thor movies are based in Norse mythology, so pick a book that involves myth or mythology, and for that I have Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. Chokshi? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but this is the first Rick Riordan Presents novel, which is awesome because if you don't know, the whole Rick Riordan Presents branding, label, whatever you want to call it, is based on the idea that Rick Riordan has these massively popular series based on mythology, and he kept getting asked about whether he would write books for any other mythologies, but he's very aware of the fact that like he's a white guy who doesn't know anything about any mythologies from other cultures, so he's publishing books by a bunch of awesome, diverse authors who are writing about their own culture's mythology, and like I'm very excited to read this one. It's another one that I've heard absolutely incredible things about. Next is Captain America the First Avenger, and this takes place around World War II, so the challenge is to read a book set around World War II. And I'm not a big historical fiction person, and I'm especially not a big war book person, but I do have DC Bombshells. It's a comic book, and I'm counting it. Even though I do maybe feel a little sacrilegious using a DC book for a Marvel readathon, but it's fine. This series, this is actually volume 4, this series is kind of a alternate universe where all the women in the DC universe are awesome badasses in World War II. And the last movie of phase 1 is The Avengers, which is the first time we see a bunch of the different heroes in the MCU kind of come together. And so the challenge for this is to read a book with multiple perspectives, and for that I have Court of Frost and Starlight. This is another one a lot of people have been reading and reviewing it and like not giving great reviews, but honestly, I'm a sucker for Sarah J. Maas's writing. I don't care if it's just kind of fluffy and stupid and fun. It's entertaining, and also this is super short, unlike all of her other books, so it should be good for a readathon. Moving into phase 2, first movie is Iron Man 3. Tony Stark makes some hard decisions in this movie. Choose a book that will challenge you, and for that I chose Guilt by Catherine Longshore, mainly just because it's historical fiction, and I don't read a lot of historical fiction. I did read one of her other books, I think it was Tarnish maybe, and I enjoyed that a while ago, but it was a while ago and I don't read a lot of historical fiction, so it's taken me a while to get to this one. The next movie is Thor the Dark World, in which Thor has to team up with Loki to win, so the challenge is to choose a book that involves siblings, and for that I have The Other F Word by Natasha Friend, and this is a book in which 2 teenagers find out that they share the same sperm donor, and so they're actually technically half siblings even though neither of them know their father. The next movie is Captain America the Winter Soldier, aka one of the best movies in the entire MCU. In this movie, a character returns as a villain, so the challenge is to choose a book in which the main character is a anti-hero or a villain. For that, I have The Midnight Star by Marie Lu. This is the third and final book in the Young Elite series, which I've been reading very slowly, but I do enjoy it, and the main character in this is definitely a little morally gray, a little bit of an anti-hero, so I'm definitely excited to see how everything wraps up and concludes. The next movie is Guardians of the Galaxy, which is very well known for its soundtrack, so the challenge is kind of based on that, and it's to read a book that's set or was written in the 80s. I don't actually think I have any books in my TBR that are set or written in the 80s, so I'm planning to skip this one. I'm not planning to skip any others, but this one, just because I don't have a book on me that works for it. If something comes up throughout the month, great, I'll use that. But I just, like I said, I'm not a big historical fiction person, even when it's only like 30 years old historical fiction. Next movie is Avengers Age of Ultron. Not one of my favorite movies in the MCU, but the challenge is based on the fact that Ultron is basically artificial intelligence created in the movie. So the challenge is to read a book with artificial intelligence. This is another hard one because I don't have a lot of sci-fi, but I do have all new or all different Avengers, and one of the characters in this is Vision, who's technically artificial intelligence, who's also in Age of Ultron, so it works. And the final movie of phase 2 is Ant-Man, and since in Ant-Man Scott gets involuntarily caught up in a heist, the challenge for this is to choose a book that involves a heist or thieves. And for this I have Rook by Sharon Cameron. I don't know if it's technically heisty, but it seems like one of the main plot lines involves kind of a Robin Hood-ish figure. It takes place in a alternate version of Paris where people are being unlawfully imprisoned and he breaks them out of prison. So it's kind of, he's stealing people, kind of. It works, it's fine. Moving on to phase 3, the first book is Captain America Civil War, in which the Avengers split into 2 main teams after a disagreement. So the challenge for this one is to choose a book that involves a rivalry, and for this I have No Good Deed by Golden Moldavsky, and this is supposedly about a bunch of kids who go to a summer camp for teen activists and end up in this kind of dark, twisted rivalry competition to see who can be the best person. I don't know, it sounds like it's gonna be kind of fun, dark comedy. The next movie is Doctor Strange, and since Doctor Strange was a doctor before becoming a wizard, sorcerer. The challenge for this one is to choose a book that involves medicine in some way, and for this I have Love and First Sight by Josh Sundquist. And in this book the main character has been blind all his life, and then one day they find a cure or some kind of aid that allows him to see for the first time. The next one is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which has even more epic space battles than the first one. So the challenge is to choose a book that's set in space. Again, like I said earlier, I don't have a lot of sci-fi on my shelves. The best thing I could find is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, which is a really big book to read for a readathon. So I don't know if I'm actually gonna get to this one during the readathon. I do want to read it at some point soon, but it might not be a great idea for this month. The next movie is Spider-Man Homecoming, where Peter has to hide his superhero identity at school. So the challenge for this is to read a YA book that involves secrets in some way. For that, this one might be kind of stretching it, I don't know. But I have Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. I've heard absolutely incredible things about this book. This one, I think, is about a town where people every once in a while just kind of go missing. And most people think it's just something that happens in the town and they don't really question it, but then there are these 2 brothers who I think are starting to investigate, and they think that there's some kidnapping going on. So there's some kind of secret or mystery going on there. Next one is Thor Ragnarok, which is one of Marvel's most popular movies. So the challenge is to read a popular book. So for that I have Love, Hate, and Other Filters by Samira Ahmed. I have heard absolutely incredible things about this book. I just haven't had time / the opportunity to read it yet, so I think this is the perfect chance because, again, I've heard amazing things about it and I really want to read it. The next movie is Infinity War, which is a big, massive crossover event, and so the challenge is to read a book that fulfills 2 or more challenges. So for that I have Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, and this fulfills the challenges of being based on mythology, I think, question mark, and it's also really popular right now, so we're gonna count it as those two. The next movie is Black Panther, which is Marvel's first black superhero main character. So the challenge for this book is to read an own voices book with a black main character, and for that I have Tyler Johnson Was Here by Nicole. It's about a teenage boy whose twin brother is killed by police, so it delves into subjects of mourning and what really is justice and, you know, social movements, and I've heard incredible things about it. The next two movies haven't come out yet, but are on the schedule. The first one being Captain Marvel, which is Marvel's first female-led movie, and for that the challenge is to pick a book with a female main character, and for that I have I'm Not Your Manic Pixie Dream Girl by Gretchen McNeil. This is about a teenage girl who develops this sort of social experiment to maximize popularity and success in her school, and she uses it for all her friends, gets them what they need, but then when her boyfriend dumps her, she decides that she's going to use it for herself, and she kind of becomes this idea of a manic pixie dream girl and explores what is going on with that whole phenomenon. And the last movie is Avengers 4, and because everything about it is still a secret, including its title, the prompt for this one is to choose a book that you know nothing about, and for that I have Done Dirt Cheap by Sarah Nicole Lemon. This one I got because I found it was like on super sale on Amazon, I think, and some author, I want to say it was like Hannah Moskowitz or someone kind of in that social circle, was talking about sex ed in books and mentioned that this had one of their favorite most well done sex scenes in it. So I'm interested in sex education just as a general like concept, field of study, whatever. So I thought I should pick it up, but I know literally nothing about it other than the fact that I really like this cover. Alright, so that is the Marvel readathon. I will link the blog post explaining everything and having all the challenges, etc. in the doobly-doo. Again, it's created by Jamieshelves, so I highly recommend you go check out her page, I'll link her Twitter and her blog and everything. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I love the idea of doing a more spread out month-long readathon. Gonna be a challenge to fit like, what, 18 books into a month? But I think if I push myself, I can do it. We'll see. But let me know if you guys are planning on participating or what you guys are going to read, or just if you guys have any thoughts on any of these books, or if there are ones that you think would work better for some of these challenges and you guys have suggestions, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. But I love you guys, and I will see you later. Bye!